Hey guys, it's Thursday, October the 30th, 2025, and I'm going to be making a video today about a topic that I have wanted to discuss for a long time, and I believe the Father's been showing me pieces of this puzzle, and I'm just going to present to you the pieces that He's shown me. Some of this He's not shown me what the puzzle pieces mean, and I'm going to show you some of that and ask you to pray and ask the Father if He'll give you some clarity on these things, because I've been shown several pieces, but I'm not real sure how they connect. And I'm praying and asking the Father for that clarity. I believe that we are looking at a time right now where you're going to hear a lot about a black horseman. Famine, people going hungry, looting grocery stores. I mean, anything in this crazy clown world we're living in right now is going to be used to try to make a connection. But I want to show you what He's shown me. And I want you to pray about this. I don't want you to take anyone's word for it, not mine, not your pastor's, not anyone's. You take this all directly to the Father in prayer and ask for His Holy Spirit to guide you in this. Okay, because the understanding that He's been showing me, I think is going to shed a new light on some things that are being taught in the churches one way, but it could be another thing entirely. Okay, so I'll get started here. We're going to talk about the four horsemen today, and I want to show you some things that He's highlighted to me, and just get your take on it, okay? So, the first horseman, as we all know, and I'm sorry I'm in my bed, but I've got a really good light right here, so that's why it's going to cast shadows. Sorry about that. So the first seal is the white horse. And it says, "He that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer." Now, I don't want to get into detail about the bow, whether that's an archer's bow or a word called toxin, which in the Strong's does indicate that, or fabric bow. There's lots of different theories on this. What I want to show you is that he was given power, this crown that was given to him. Okay, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. One thing that I do want to highlight to you, if this is an archer's bow, is that there's no mention of arrows. And in the Hebrew language, there is a word picture for every word. So like to miss the mark is the word for sin. And the picture that goes with that is a bow with no arrows. So is it possible that this first seal is actually the corrupted churches? They're given a crown right here, but they have a bow and no arrows, meaning it's a church that has missed the mark. But it goes forth conquering. Okay, so we see where there are false lights being presented as truth in churches going out conquering. And you can go back through my channel and see if more of what I'm talking about there. But you get the idea that there are lies being mixed with truth. And it is conquering the world. The majority of churches are teaching a false light. And He says, many are called, but few are chosen. If you find yourself believing anything with the majority, then you need to do a heart check, a spirit check, and make sure, because the majority seldom have the truth. That's why it says the many are on the broad path. Okay, I don't want to get into all that, but I believe this first seal, this first horseman, could have been riding for a long while. And I'll say that when you look at what the red horseman, the description of the red horseman. Okay, so there was another, the horse was red, power was given to him. So in the same instance with the first horseman, a crown was given to him, and he went forth conquering, so he had power to conquer. This one was given power to take peace from the earth. Let's see if I can focus. And that they should kill one another. Okay, well, we've had world wars going on for the last 100 years. So a lot of the premise of those world wars was communism, socialism, all the isms that you can imagine. But the red horse, I believe, has also been riding for a while. And notice that the red horse is given power to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. What's this one another? The red horse pursuing the white horse? The red horse killing those from the churches? There's some question. Okay, but the point of this video is more to get into the Black Horseman. Now, I've never heard sermons on this, but this is something the Father showed me. I've always heard that the Black Horseman has a pair of scales, he rides out, and it's famine. You know, 1 measure of wheat for a day's wage and 3 measures of barley for a day's wage. We're going to get into all of that. Okay? I don't believe the Black Horseman is necessarily famine. And so what I'm going to show you here is going to break down each detail of this Black Horseman. Okay, so again, behold, there's a black horse. This is the 3rd seal. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand, a pair of scales. And we've seen a reference to scales in the Old Testament where the son of Nebuchadnezzar was having a party using all the temple treasures, and a hand begins to write on the wall. Many, many tekel parson. I may not be saying that exactly right. But it's talking about your soul has been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Is this balance that the Black Horseman has a measure by which the souls of men will be measured? Okay? And I'm going to show you here what I'm talking about. I mentioned in my video about the 3 different harvests, the dead and Yahusha being the first fruits, and the barley and the wheat and the grapes, that I mentioned in that video that I believe that the Father's army are the Black Horsemen, and I'm going to show you here exactly why I said that. Okay, so this Black Horseman, unlike the White Horseman whose power is given to him, and the Red Horseman, power was given to him, and we'll jump down to the Pale Horse, power was given to them because hell rides with him, right? So a pale horse, and his name was death, and hell followed with him. So power was given to them over the 4th of the earth. But the Black Horseman doesn't have any power given to him directly. Not like these other 3. The Black Horseman receives his instruction directly from a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts. Now, who is that? When John first comes to heaven, he is shown the throne of the Father surrounded by 4 beasts. I didn't have that marked, but he describes all of this, that the throne of the Most High is surrounded by 4 beasts. I'm sorry, guys. I should have marked that. But here we go. I think this is where it describes it. Here we go. In the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, in the midst of the elders, stood the Lamb that had been slain. Okay, so we know that this voice in the midst of the 4 beasts is describing the Most High, because his throne is surrounded by the 4 beasts. All right, and we have a lot going on here. But the Black Horseman is not given power in and of himself. He receives instruction directly from a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts, from the Most High himself. And you can argue from the Lamb as well. And here's what the voice tells the Black Horseman. Sorry, my phone is shaking. I'm trying to keep it still. Here is what the voice in the midst of the 4 beasts says to the Black Horseman. A measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see that you do not hurt the oil and the wine. So this Black Horseman is getting instruction directly from the Most High, from the throne of the Most High that is surrounded by the 4 beasts. Whereas the other 3 seals have power to go and they're sent off. This Black Horseman has to wait for instruction. And it's really telling what he's told here. A measure of wheat for a penny. All right, anytime you see the word penny here, it actually is in the Strong's a mention of a denarius. A denarius is like our dime. It's a measure of 10. And we know from the parable of the laborers in the vineyard, they're each given a denarius, so the argument is for famine that, measure of wheat is going to cost you a day's wage, because the laborers in the vineyard were given a denarius, a day's wage. So our word penny there is not a correct translation. It should have been dime, if anything else. But there's also a mention of a beast with 10 heads. So it could not mean money at all. The black horseman might be told to gather a measure of wheat, and we know there's a wheat harvest of souls in Matthew 13, and I've described the wheat harvest as the innumerable multitude from Revelation 7. But wheat here could also be the wheat harvest, and not just grain made used to make bread. And the word penny there is a complete mistranslation. It should have been dime, but it's a measure of 10. So the black horseman could actually be given instruction to gather one measure of souls, wheat, for the 10. The beast that has the 10 heads. The beast system. I know this is sounding a little crazy here, but this could be describing a police state here, right? We know that they're going to be gathering people for lack of a better term, concentration camps. There have been many of us that have had dreams of going in and rescuing these people. Okay, so this could not be a reference to famine and bread loaf cost a day's wage. This could be a whole other discussion. And it says a measure of wheat for a denarius, or a measure of 10, and 3 measures of barley. Okay, well, we discussed barley in my video about the harvests, and I believe barley is also a reference to the innocent children. Okay, so this could be a reference to people that will be in the wheat harvest and children, for all we know. It doesn't give us more than wheat and barley here, but the fact that the black horseman receives his instruction directly from the Father himself means that the black horseman doesn't have power to go and do what he wants. The black horseman is under the control and instruction of the Most High. Okay, and another thing I've highlighted here, the black horseman is told not to hurt the oil and the wine. Well, I've heard it taught in churches. Well, during a famine, oil and wine are going to be very expensive commodities. You're not going to want to see any harm come to those things. Oil could be a reference to the oil fields. The oil used to fuel our cars or whatever. I've heard it all. I've heard all kinds of explanations for this reference to the oil and the wine. But again, just like wheat and barley could be a reference to those in that particular harvest, it could also be a reference to something else besides literal oil and wine. Now, I want to show you why I'm kind of highlighting that. The black horseman is told not to harm the oil and the wine. In other words, they're going to be given enough instruction that they might possibly harm oil and wine. So they're told, be careful now, don't harm these things. Well, we have a reference to oil and wine in the parable of the Good Samaritan right here. And what's really interesting, if you consider that the Good Samaritan is a reference to Yahusha, and there's a lot of details here that could be so, the Good Samaritan pours oil and wine into the wounds of this injured man. So it's a medicinal thing. It could be instruction. He's pouring in good teaching to help this man Y'all pray about what the oil and the wine is. I have been asking and praying for clarity on that. And so far, I've gotten a couple of references. We've got another over here in Jeremiah. Oh, I don't even know if I saved that. In Jeremiah, 31, it's talking about when he brings those to Zion, he'll gather together those and bring them to Zion. Remember, Jeremiah 3:14 says that he's going to gather one of a city and two of a family and bring them to Zion for marriage. All right, well, he's talking about giving them for wheat and for oil and for wine and oil, the goodness of his provision. Okay, so this reference in the Black Horseman to harm not the oil and the wine, it could just mean those that the Father's providing for at that time. But the thing I wanted to show you the most right now is that the Black Horseman isn't just given power in and of himself like the other three horsemen are. He's given instruction directly from the Father. Now, if you go over, let me keep a tab right here in case I have to come back. If you go over to Joel 2, you're shown that the army of the Most High, the Father's army, sorry, it's all blurry, but the Father's army has the appearance of horses. You see that? And like horsemen, they'll run, and they're going to be like mighty men jumping over walls. And before their face, people should be pained. They'll run like mighty men, climb the wall. This is going to be a formidable force. And it is going to have the appearance of horses. And I made a little question here. Are these the Black Horsemen? Because his army is going to be getting instruction directly from him. They're not beginning to have power in and of themselves like the white horseman, the red horseman, and the pale horseman. The Black Horseman is a completely different entity. Okay? So his army will have this appearance of horses. Now I'm going to throw some of you for a loop here, but we know that unless it looks impossible, the Father doesn't get the credit. And I think he's going to use something no one sees coming for these Black Horsemen. And look, you guys pray about this, please, because what I'm about to say to you is going to throw a lot of you off and probably not be accepted, and that's fine. I'm just going to mention it so that you can pray about it. All right? We are told in Psalm, I got it marked here somewhere, it fell down. Here we go. Psalm 68. The Father, the Most High, gives the word, and this is the KJV, King James Version. I don't like how it's wording this because something is being hidden from you right here. Okay, and you have to dig to find the truth of this verse. The Father gave the word, great is the company of those that publish it. Are y'all getting any impression from that verse right there that who's doing what and what's being published? Now, I've got another translation here, and I'm going to show you. This is the completed Jewish Bible. Many believe it's a better translation for what the Hebrew and the Greek say, but, I don't know. Just up to you guys to do and pray about everything that you read, see, and hear. But here's how Psalm 68:11 is worded in this completed Jewish Bible. Adonai gives the command, the women with the good news are a mighty army. Well, that's not what the KJV says over here. The Lord gives the word, great was the company of those that published it. So, when you look in the Strong's Concordance, company is a feminine noun. I don't have all this written out for you, but I'm just trying to show you here for reference that it's very possible the Father's going to use women for his army. That the Joel 2 army might be something no one's expecting. And I've made videos about what the Father has shown me about how he's going to use women You know, women were the first to announce our Messiah's resurrection. And a woman at the well was the first to announce that he is Messiah. He told everyone else, keep this to yourself. But he tells that woman, I am the Messiah. And she runs and tells the whole village. Okay, and then they all come out to meet him. So she's the first evangelist. And I've made, I think, a pretty good argument for the fact that the shepherds were women. And the shepherds in the field were the first to announce his birth. So if the Father used women for those milestones of his Son, his birth, his role as Messiah, and his resurrection, would he use women again to announce his return? Y'all pray about that. But he's been showing me a couple of things about this, and I'm no feminist or anything. I'm just looking at scripture and putting some puzzle pieces together. But if you look in Micah 4, specifically 13, it's another mention of, like I've got a reference here, Harvest of the Wheat and Tears, where he says, and go read this all in context so that you see, this is another reference to Zion. And he says here, arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion. For I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hooves brass, and you shall beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. Okay, why are these women described as having hooves? Hooves are a reference to a four-legged beast, I would say namely a horse. And he's got women as a great army right here. And the Joel 2 army are described as having the appearance of horses. And the black horsemen are given instruction directly from the Father himself. They don't have authority to go out on their own with their own power and to conquer or to take peace from the earth or to, cause the death of a quarter of the earth. The black horseman is a completely separate entity described in a completely different way. And I don't believe it just means famine. I believe that the scales that the black horsemen are given is to weigh the souls in the balance. And like I described in that video about the dead in Yahusha, and the way that they're described as bringing in the harvest, that Malachi 3, 17 and 18, I'll just recite it from memory, basically says that he's going to spare those as he spares those of his only children that serve him on the day that he makes up his jewels and his crown. And so by sparing, I take that to mean he removes them, and then they return. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked. I believe the black horseman is possibly a reference to the first fruits here, where they're given scales to discern between the righteous and the wicked. Okay, there's a lot going on in that third seal of the black horseman, but I just wanted to bring this breakdown to you. Pray about the oil and the wine part. There's some question I still have about that, but I just wanted to show you that black horseman is something different. And it may not just be a reference to literal oil and literal wine, but it could be a whole different thing than we're being taught. Pray about that, guys, and ask the Father to give you some clarity. And if I get any more clarity on this, you can bet I'll make a video about it. But I just wanted to share that with you. I think that we're getting ready to see that black horse ride, and it's not going to look like what we've been taught. So thank you all for listening. Sorry for the length of the video and for my shaky hands. I'm just trying to get this information out to you. You all be blessed, be safe, and keep looking up. All right? Have a great day.